Let's get hold on your thoughts. Let's get Professor Uche Waleke of the National State University into this conversation. Professor, how much more do you think you've been listening to some of the commodities, oil and agri within this GDP tea leaves that we have now? Read this for us. What's your reading in particular when it comes to crop production, wheat, maize, corn, and things like that?
Yeah, thanks very much. For me, the concern now should move from the growth, the quantum of the growth to the quality of the growth, and that's why I'm happy that the Q4 result, didn't really see the oil sector playing a significant role that it played in Q3. We saw that decline from 25% to about 8%. And the agri sector, which of course has 4 subsectors there: the crop, the livestock, the fishery, the forestry, growing by something in excess of 4%. And of course, the crop production there accounts for over 90% of the total. And if we saw some traction there, even though relative to Q3, much less, it was more because of the interventions that we saw in that area, particularly rice, the Anchor Borrowers Program, rice. Don't forget, too, that the government has a target of, I think this year, to achieve self-sufficiency in rice production before the end of the year, and wheat, self-sufficiency in wheat before the end of, by 2019. So the interventions of the central bank in particular, and the government fertilizer initiative, they all went a long way in ensuring that the agri sector, remained in the positive territory and performed well above what we saw in Q3 of 2017. So for me, that's remarkable. If you also look at what happened in the manufacturing sector, you can also trace that to the fact that the Purchasing Managers Index was, above the 50 points threshold. So also was capacity utilization in the industries, which also was above 50%. So all that also shows that going forward, we are making steady progress. But as I said earlier on, the concern should be more of, on the quality of the growth and not just the quantity. That's one. Secondly, too, we should be concerned more about the distribution of that growth. Yes, the numbers are beginning to look good, but again, we shouldn't roll out the drums just because we have a GDP growth is positive. We've had in the past, we've had a GDP growth rate of as high as 6%, 7%, and yet it didn't translate, it didn't really trickle down to, reduce the poverty levels, and which is why I'm happy that today the National Bureau of Statistics, in conjunction with the National Social Safety Coordinating Office and the World Bank, the National Bureau of Statistics is beginning to look at conducting a national living standard survey, for Nigeria. We have not had this, for over 10 years now, that will really go to measure poverty, inequality, in the country. So if we are saying GDP is growing, as I said, we should also it should also impact, positively on the the standard of living.
Yes, I agree with you, Professor.
So that it's not just the GDP.
Yes, I agree with you. Folks says you can't eat GDP. Yes, I've had some slices of bread this morning, but that's also part of the GDP somehow. But again, we understand when folks says you can't eat GDP, you've had to eat something very real. So putting the GDP numbers side by side.
It's a necessary condition, though. It's a necessary condition, though.
I know.
Even though we say it's not a sufficient condition. Yes. So it is good we have a positive GDP growth, but that's not all the story. It's only a means to an end. You shouldn't really get us. We shouldn't get it in the head that
overly excited. I understand. I understand. We just to keep our head still on our shoulders. Professor, we'll still get back to you. We have a lot more time to discuss on the way forward and what these numbers means. That you're beginning to read the tea leaves now as part of this conversation. Adim is still with us here from FDC in Lagos. And let's get back to, and I'm interested in wheat because I just talk about bread, even though some says whether it's white bread or brown bread, whatever it is, still come from wheat. Then we had, what type of bread some years ago? remember? Cassava bread.
Yes.
Yeah, that was. Did you ever taste it?
No, I didn't. But I think there's this attempt to substitute cassava flour with wheat flour because of this growing health consciousness. Wheat is regarded as the more healthier form of flour.
Of fiber and things like that.
Exactly.
Yes. So do you think the big FMCGs, and I'm looking at them, if we have such a shortfall, almost 47 million metric tons shortfall in our wheat productions, do you think this is where the big boys should come in very quick? The Dangote flour, the flour mills, the Honeywell flour, do you think this is where they should bring in the money and quickly to plug this gap? I just can't compare $12.6 million to a market of $2 billion globally. We're not even there at all.
It's almost $60 billion, I should say. And yes, this is the time that these big boys, like for example, flour mills, Dangote flour, should come in and impact policies to boost production, boost domestic production, because it would only benefit them. Because if we're spending about $2 billion to import wheat, that is yes, exactly. That is a significant when it can be used for other uses, for example, to channel boost infrastructure for one. So I think it's very imperative that we do something to continue to boost domestic production in not only wheat but other grains.
We need this very urgently. But again, we will continue the commodities conversation some other time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Adim Okwesta, one of the research analysts at Financial Derivatives Company. Just before we take a break, let's take you through the headline figures. Nigeria's gross domestic product was decent and a very good 1.92% in fourth quarter. That was much better than the Q3 2017. Yes, and that's the broad figure there in bold figure. You can see it there for you. And you can see our nominal GDP a little bit lower on the left side of your TV screen. You can see 31.5 trillion there. Let's put out this number, have this further conversations when we return after the break. We have a few more guests talking to us.